In this lecture, we'll try to understand what is circuit and landing. Now, circuit and landing is a practice that is done in your flying training to make you more practice of landings and to know about the circuit pattern. Now, let's explain this diagram. Let's say this is your aircraft and you're rolling for takeoff and you take off. After that, this is your takeoff path. The main concept is how much takeoff and landings you can practice in short time. You have to save fuel. Okay, so you take off, you reach a certain height after the takeoff and you turn on the downwind leg. So this is your downwind leg, and after finishing downwind leg, by the end of the downwind leg you reach 1500 feet of AGL, above ground level. Then you fly the downwind leg. Why it is called downwind? Because you only take off from here on a upwind condition. Wind is coming from this condition. So now you, in this circuit on the downwind leg, you are having tailwind. It is assumed that you are having tailwind. Okay, now tailwind, you have to go to a certain distance and you have to maintain a certain distance from the runway also. We will explain later. And then at a certain position you start for base turn. This is called base turn, and you descend also. Then you come and align yourself on the final so that you can land again. In your flying training, the landing can be in a continuous landing and you can take off on the same path, is called the touch and go. So you do actually touch and go. Okay, now let's differentiate these segments and explain one by one. Let's talk about some performance criteria that you need to cater for flying in circuit. Okay, so first you need to fly an accurate circuit maintaining correct position. So always you need to maintain the correct position. If this is your runway, so that your circuit pattern, your distance, your descent, everything, all the positions that you need to maintain correct. Your height 1500 feet AGL or whatever. Next is comply with accurate simulated, actual or simulated ATC instructions. Now if you are a flying school and if your flying school has their own runway, own aerodrome, then also they will give you some instructions. So always follow the instructions given by ATC. This is expected for your circuit landing, whether you are flying solo or with your instructor. Okay, so this is you need to consider very seriously. Comply with circuit entry and departure procedure. That is what I was discussing, that circuit entry, departure procedure and circuit entry, always you need to comply with the published circuit pattern. Then transmit the required radio calls. This comes under the ATC instruction also, and also whatever calls that the ATC is asking to you, you have to transmit. Or there are certain call pattern. Let's say you first call on the after the takeoff path or on the downwind leg, okay, before the base turn. There are 3-4 calls that is taught by your flying instructor or in your flying school. So you have to transmit those radio calls. Then comes correct for wind and drift procedure. This is important for circuit landing. In circuit landing, you will not learn only landings, you will learn to fly in a crosswind condition. So in a crosswind condition, we'll discuss later. Let's say if the wind is from this direction, so normally your aircraft can fly like this, but in a windy condition, your nose will go something and you will fly a track made good, something like this according to the wind speed. So that is why you need to understand to fly in a crosswind or land in a crosswind, the crabbing technique. That is also your instructor will tell you. Okay, so in a circuit pattern circuit landing, you need to apply those drift procedures very carefully. So this is also important before you start your circuit landing. Then always you have to be remain oriented with the runway. In a circuit, initially when students start their flying, sometimes they lost the runway, they can't see, they can't find the runway. So that is why you need to be oriented always with the runway. So wherever you are, the very easy technique is always know your position. Wherever you are, if you know your position, you know where to look for the runway. Okay, then is complete appropriate checklist. It's not only flying, you have to do all the checklist within this short period. Remember, in a circuit the time is very short, and in that case you have to do the after takeoff checklist. Maybe here you will do your descent checklist, then you will do your approach checklist, then you will do your before landing checklist, you will take your flaps over here. So everything, all the systems or all the procedures that you have to complete within this short time, very short time. We'll discuss later as the course progresses. Next is comply with other procedures. Now with other procedures, I would recommend to comply with aviate, navigate, and communicate, which you are already following, but you have to always remember these things. Next important is situational awareness, and look for other traffic. Okay, look for other traffic. For example, if you are in the pattern and you are, let's say you are making your approach, look if there is another aircraft which is taking off, or maybe at the holding point. So you are not given your clearance till now, landing clearance you are not given. There is some other aircraft in the circuit who is flying behind you, maybe some other aircraft, because it's generally 3-4 aircrafts in the circuit pattern always fly. So that is why you need to know everybody's call sign. You have to open your ears all the time, keep your ears open, listen the RT who is where. Okay, so then this is situation awareness, and look for other traffic. If you are turning on the base, look for other traffic who is on the final. Somebody may be on the finals, he is giving the call. So make a visual contact with the other traffic. Visual contact is important. So this is how you need this kind of performance criteria. You need to remember this kind of performance criteria to start your circuit and landing. Let's talk about 5 basic legs of the circuit. First is the takeoff leg. Now, if the aircraft is taking off in this direction, this is your takeoff leg. This is the crosswind leg, because the wind is expected to be like this. You are taking off, so that is why you are facing the wind from a crosswind. That is why this is the crosswind leg. Then comes the downwind leg, because now wind is pushing you from the behind and you are flying in a tailwind condition here. Downwind leg, then you descend on the base leg, and finally comes to your finals. So we have 5 legs: the takeoff leg, the crosswind leg, the downwind leg, the base leg, and finals. So if somebody asks you what are the legs of a circuit, so these are the legs that you need to remember. Now, definition of a perfect circuit. It is the takeoff and climb to 500 feet. You're taking off and climb to 500 feet. Number 1. The number 2, turn into the crosswind leg. Number 2. Number 1. Then number 2, turn into the crosswind leg. Then climb to 1000 feet approx. So you approximately reach to 1000 feet. reference aerodrome for turning point and turn into the downwind leg. So you need to make a reference with the aerodrome and turn into the downwind leg. Here you start reducing power onto base and commence your descent over here and turn into the final for descent.